Hey everyone, welcome back to your favorite channel. I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing. Guys, today we're diving into one of the most controversial, long-running, and highly debated love triangles in comic book history. We are talking about the love life of Dick Grayson, aka our favorite hero, Nightwing. We all know Nightwing is pretty much the ultimate heartthrob of the DC universe. But for years, fans have been at war over one big question. Who is the absolute perfect match for him? Is it Starfire, the powerful, energetic alien princess from the Teen Titans? Or is it Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, the brilliant, grounded Gotham girl and his longtime partner in crime? In this video, we're going to break down both of these iconic relationships, look at the pros and cons, and finally decide which couple reigns supreme. So, if you're loyal to one of these legendary pairings, smash that like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment right now. Are you Team Starfire or Team Batgirl? Without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, let's kick things off with the fiery, red-headed alien princess from Tamaran, Starfire, also known as Coriander. Dick Grayson and Starfire's relationship started back in the 1980s during the legendary run of the New Teen Titans. This was the textbook definition of love at first sight. When Starfire first escaped to Earth, she didn't know a word of English, and according to her planet's custom, she learned the language by kissing Dick Grayson. And well, that single kiss sparked one of the most passionate, romantic, and breathtaking relationships in DC history. But why was their bond so deep and impactful? Look, at that time, Dick Grayson had just broken free from Batman's dark, heavy shadow. He was exhausted by Gotham's brutal methods and Batman's constant gloom. He just wanted to be his own man. Starfire was exactly the light Dick needed in his darkness. She was pure emotion, unfiltered, deeply loving, and full of positive energy. She taught Dick how to love fiercely and express his feelings without caring what others thought. Their relationship became so serious that Dick completely dropped the Robin mantle and, inspired by stories of Superman, created his own independent identity, Nightwing. So Starfire was basically the eyewitness and the main catalyst for that boy Robin transforming into the badass adult hero known as Nightwing. Their love was pure fantasy, filled with cosmic adventures and intensely emotional. They even made it all the way to the altar. Yep, in one of the famous comics, they were about to get married, but right in the middle of the ceremony, Raven, who was possessed by her demonic father Trigon, crashed the wedding, ruined everything, and the marriage never happened. The best part of this relationship was that Starfire gave Dick freedom. She pulled him out of depressing Gotham and showed him a bigger, brighter universe. But what was the downside? Cultural and racial differences. Starfire was a warrior princess from another planet, so she sometimes struggled to understand Earth's rules, Dick's intense sense of duty, and his deep commitment to humanity. Ultimately, even though they were madly in love, their paths slowly drifted apart. Starfire got more involved in cosmic issues and Titan business, while Dick was pulled right back to his grounded Gotham roots. Still, many fans still believe Starfire is the most passionate and deepest love of Nightwing's life. But guys, Dick and Starfire's relationship wasn't just some popcorn romance and space adventures. This bond was tested in the darkest atmospheres imaginable. One of the darkest yet most loyal periods of their lives was when Starfire was captured and tortured by her planet's enemies.
Without a single second of hesitation, Dick Grayson searched the entire galaxy, risked his own life, and went into the deep corners of space just to rescue Cori. That showed their love was way deeper than just a simple earthly romance. On the other hand, the maturity of this relationship is totally obvious in newer shows and animated movies like Titans or the DC Animated Movie Universe, DCAMU. There, we see that Dick and Starfire aren't those immature teens anymore. They've become the actual leaders of the Titans. Starfire as a wise princess and Dick as a master strategist aren't just in love. They perfectly complement each other, both tactically and emotionally. Whenever Dick would spiral into his dark Gotham thoughts or his Batman baggage, Starfire was always there to remind him that he is not Bruce Wayne, and he doesn't have to carry the weight of the world completely on his own. But the absolute biggest blow to this relationship came when DC writers decided to bring Nightwing back to Gotham and the Bat family. Dick moving away from the Titans and settling down in the city of Blue Haven built a massive wall between them. Starfire belonged to the skies and the galaxies, while Nightwing was a street-level hero fighting gangsters on dark rooftops. This massive difference in lifestyle and paths eventually forced them to realize that despite all the love they shared, their missions in life just didn't align anymore. Even so, whenever these two cross paths again in the comics, that old spark and chemistry is totally undeniable. And that's exactly why a massive part of the DC fandom still looks at Starfire as the one true queen of Nightwing's heart. Now, if you want to experience this passionate cosmic love for yourself on the comic pages and understand exactly why this couple has such a huge fan base, you absolutely need to check out these masterpiece comics. First, and most importantly, the legendary run of the New Teen Titans, issues 1 to 50 by the iconic duo Marv Wolfman and George Perez. These comics are officially the birthplace of Dick and Starfire's romance. From that very first kiss used to learn English to their wild cosmic adventures and that high-energy 80s vibe, it's all packed into this historic run. It perfectly shows you how Starfire helped Dick Grayson finally break free from Batman's shadow and become Nightwing. The second comic, which is incredibly dramatic and dark, is the New Teen Titans Annual number 3. This is the infamous issue that covers Dick and Starfire's controversial wedding. In this comic, you see just how serious their love was. They were literally ready to tie the knot. But right as they're about to say I do, Raven, who's possessed by her demonic father Trigon, crashes the church, the priest Ash, and creates one of the darkest, most heartbreaking moments in comic book history, ruining the wedding forever. All right, guys, now it's time to wrap up our cosmic flight, bring it back down to Earth, and head straight into the dark, rainy streets and rooftops of Gotham. It's time to break down Dick Grayson's relationship with Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. If Dick's romance with Starfire was love at first sight and pure fantasy, his relationship with Barbara is the exact opposite. It's the ultimate friends to lovers formula.
Their story starts all the way back in their teenage years, when Dick was still Robin and Barbara had just put on the Batgirl cowl for the first time. Fighting crime side by side under Batman's shadow, growing up together, saving each other's lives countless times, and sharing secrets they wouldn't tell anyone else. This means their relationship is built on a rock-solid foundation of mutual understanding and absolute trust. Barbara Gordon is the one person who knows Dick Grayson without the mask, without the cape, and at his absolute most vulnerable. She has witnessed firsthand all the complexes, fears, and emotional trauma that Bruce's methods inflicted on Dick. And here is the golden nugget of their relationship. To Dick, Barbara represents home and his roots. Whenever Dick gets lost in the chaos of the world, Barbara acts like a compass, guiding him right back to the proper path. Their lifestyles, their logic, and their view of justice are perfectly in sync. But let me tell you, this relationship has been anything but easy. It's been hit by some heavily tragic moments. The ultimate test of their love came when the Joker shot Barbara during the events of the masterpiece comic The Killing Joke, leaving her paralyzed. No longer able to be Batgirl, Barbara was confined to a wheelchair and created her new identity as Oracle. During this dark, depressing time, a lot of people walked out on Barbara, but Dick Grayson stood by her side like a rock. Dick proved to her that he wasn't in love with her martial arts skills or the Batgirl mask. He was in love with her soul, her brilliant mind, and the real Barbara. The biggest pro of this relationship is its incredible stability and maturity. Whether they're working, living, or fighting crime, they are a flawless team that completely balances each other out. But what's the con? The shadow of Gotham. Every single time these two tried to get close, their duties to the Bat family, the darkness of Gotham, and Batman's missions ended up acting like a cold wall between them. For years, they've been stuck in this will they, won't they loop. Missions, trauma, and obligations kept pulling them apart. But comic book history proves that the magnetic pull between Dick and Barbara is so strong that no matter what happens, they always find their way back to each other. But guys, don't think this relationship is just stuck in the past or resting on pure nostalgia. In recent years, in modern DC Comics, Dick and Barbara's relationship has reached peak maturity, especially in Tom Taylor's incredibly popular and absolute masterpiece run on Nightwing. We see exactly how Barbara becomes Dick's emotional anchor. When Dick Grayson inherits a massive fortune and decides to save the city of Bloodhaven, Barbara steps up right alongside him, not just as his girlfriend, but as his ultimate tech support in the strategic mastermind. Their love in modern comics is easily the safest, most stable, and least dramatic part of Nightwing's life. If you really want to get a deep understanding of this Gotham love story, these are the 3 comics you absolutely cannot miss. 1. The masterpiece comic Batgirl Year 1. This comic is literally your ticket to the past, back where everything started. In this story, we see Barbara Gordon freshly entering the hero scene, trying her best to prove herself to Batman. But the coolest part of the book is her crossing paths with Dick Grayson, who was still Robin at the time. Writers Tom DeFalco and Scott Beatty capture their sweet teenage bickering, their races across Gotham's rainy rooftops, and that initial spark and chemistry in the most beautiful way possible.
This comic shows you why their foundation is so rock solid, because before they ever fell in love, they were incredible friends and partners in crime. 2. The dramatic Nightwing 155. This issue is easily one of the most emotional and heartwarming comics in entire DC history. The story takes place right on the brink of the massive dark crossover event Final Crisis. Dick Grayson knows an apocalyptic war is coming and that he might never make it back alive. So he drops everything and goes straight to Barbara, who was in a wheelchair at the time, operating as Oracle. Dick spends an incredibly romantic, high-stakes night with Barbara, pours his heart out, and hands her an unforgettable letter along with a ring, officially proposing to her. This comic is living proof that in the absolute worst and darkest nights of his life, when death is staring him right in the face, Dick Grayson only thinks about one person, and that's Barbara Gordon. 3. Tom Taylor's modern Nightwing run, from issue 78 onwards. If you want to see how this couple is absolutely stealing fans' hearts in today's modern world, you have got to read this masterpiece run by Tom Taylor. The story kicks off when Dick Grayson inherits Alfred Pennyworth's billionaire fortune and decides to save Bloodhaven from poverty and corruption. Barbara is right there with him, acting not just as his romantic partner, but as his tactical eye in the sky, Oracle. After years of them being up in the air, Tom Taylor finally gives these 2 characters an incredible sense of stability. They officially move in together, adopt a super cute 3-legged dog named Bitewing, and show the maturity of true love in the most beautiful way, proving how 2 people can be each other's peace and salvation. Alright guys, now that we've completely dissected both relationships, it's time to put these 2 pairings face to face and see what the real difference is. Why has the DC fandom been split into 2 hardcore, fiercely loyal groups, Team Starfire and Team Batgirl, for so many years? Look, the difference between these 2 relationships has absolutely nothing to do with looks or superpowers. It's way deeper and much more psychological than that. Let me break it down for you. When Dick is with Starfire, we see a Nightwing who is totally liberated from Earth, from Gotham's darkness, and from Batman's emotional baggage. Starfire is basically a flight of freedom for Dick. She takes him up to the skies and the galaxies, teaches him how to yell out his feelings without fear, and shows him how to actually enjoy life. Starfire opens up completely new horizons for him, turning him from Batman's sidekick into the leader of the Teen Titans. This relationship is all about passion, excitement, fantasy, and escaping Earth's harsh realities. But when Dick is with Batgirl, the entire story flips. Barbara Gordon represents home and a grounding anchor for Dick. Barbara doesn't need Dick to fly. She accepts him exactly as he is, with all his emotional scars, his dark past, and his earthly responsibilities. If Starfire pulls Dick out of Gotham, Batgirl helps Dick survive inside Gotham and Bloodhaven without losing his mind or his identity. Barbara completely understands Dick's past, present, and future because she grew up on the exact same path, grinding under Batman's shadow just like he did. If we want to do a final comparison and wrap up these 2 lifestyles, we gotta say that choosing between Starfire and Batgirl is basically choosing between 2 completely different paths for Dick Grayson's life. Starfire represents youthful passion, pure excitement, exploring unknown worlds, and a fiery love that lifts you right off the ground.
On the flip side, Barbara represents maturity, the calm after the storm. endless friendship and building a stable, grounded life on Earth. Over the years, DC writers have definitely picked sides depending on the era. One minute they're sending Dick to outer space to be with Starfire, and the next they're dragging him right back to Gotham to be with Barbara. But the truth is, both of these relationships made Nightwing a much better hero. Starfire gave him his independence, and Barbara gave him his stability. Now, putting all these comic book debates and logic aside, if you want my personal opinion, I honestly prefer Dick and Barbara's relationship. To me, this lifelong friendship turning into a deeply rooted romance just feels way more compelling and realistic. There's something beautiful about two people fighting side by side in the dark since they were kids, and finally becoming each other's safe haven and peace of mind. Plus, in the recent comics, we've seen just how mature and absolutely flawless they are together. All right, guys, we've reached the final stop. Today, we cracked open the case on one of the biggest and coolest love triangles in comic book history, and we saw the completely different paths Nightwing took with two of DC's absolute best girls. I gave you my take, and my pick is definitely the grounded Gotham duo, Dick and Barbara, because the maturity and stability in that relationship is just on another level. But hey, the beauty of the comic book world is that everyone has different tastes, and I totally get that Team Starfire has some rock-solid, badass arguments for their cosmic romance. Now, it's your turn. I want you guys to absolutely blow up the comment section. Drop a comment and tell me if you agree with me, or if you think Dick Grayson belongs in the stars with the Princess of Tamaran. Are you Team Batgirl or Team Starfire? Thank you all so much for sticking with me until the very end of this video. If you love this style of relationship breakdowns and deep dive comic book comparisons, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of the upcoming videos. Until the next badass video and the next wild debate, take care of yourselves, and I'm out. Peace.